Stand by. We'll be here in 30 seconds. Hi,
You're on Facebook.
Facebook. This is Jim Blythe, Veterans Impact Show. We've got Wallace Green today, and we're going to be talking about kidney disease. We're going to be talking about how do you take care of yourself, and we're going to be talking to a great American veteran who's received awards from the governor. So here we go. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where we continue the mission of highlighting veterans and service organizations who continue to serve our community and our nation. We're brought to you by Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Don't worry, retire happy. Welcome aboard. Hey, what a great day, and I am so thrilled to be here with you. I'm telling you, we've got a lot of great information for you. As you know, last week we talked about the PACT Act, and the PACT Act for you veterans, it's really the biggest improvement in the VA benefits in the VA. And one of the presumptive conditions for toxic exposure is kidney disease. There's basically three: kidney, heart, and cancer. Many diseases are caused by toxicity. And many diseases can be either prevented, they can be arrested, and they can be improved. A couple of years ago or so, I met a great Navy veteran, a great man in Norfolk, Virginia, Wallace Green. Wallace, thank you for being on board and welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. It's actually a pleasure and an honor to actually serve the airwaves with you once again this morning and have the opportunity to talk with the veterans.
I got to tell you, when it comes to continue the mission, you have set the bar real high as a standard for what you've done. Some of the things that you've done, you started 12 years ago, health and awareness about kidney disease, and you brought some great people in. You do great workshops, but let's back up just a little bit. Let everybody know, what did you do in the Navy? Just a quick thumbnail sketch.
Well, as I mentioned, when we met for the first time, Jim, my rating was actually a personnelman, and I never really worked in that field simply because there were a lot of things that popped up that were for volunteering work, and morale serving in Vietnam was one of the things that they put a lot of emphasis on for the sailors being away from home, their loved ones, and things of that nature. And I volunteered to actually work with the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, broadcasting and helping to build the morale for the troops and all. I joined the Navy in 1971. I had 2 tours in Vietnam. I mentioned my rating was a personnelman, but also worked as a recruiter. I worked as a chief recruiter. Race relation was a problem back in the 70s, so I volunteered once again to be a race relation facilitator. And I ended my career up as in the command, as a command chief in the career information team, actually working on a transition program, which is now called the TAP program, Transition Assistance Program, helping individuals to prepare themselves for the civilian community.
I think that's so important because a lot of guys get out and they just don't know, or they did when I got out. Now, you got in right after I got out. I was there from 67 to 70, and I made 3 tours on aircraft carriers, and we share a passion because I did Armed Forces Radio on the Oriskany, and that was a lot of fun.
Yes,
And one of the things for the audience to know, Wallace and I was in Norfolk, and Wallace and I were on a radio station together with a couple of ministers, and we had so much fun one day. It was a ball. Let me tell you, this guy is good and a great friend. But let's stop for a second and tell everybody about the 501c3 that you put together, your health and awareness, and what motivated you to do that, and how did you go about doing that?
Well, it actually came about like most people that fall into certain projects and things because it hit close to home. In my case, my kidneys had failed, and I can remember like yesterday when the doctor said that my kidneys had gotten to the point that I needed dialysis in order to continue to live. And of course, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I just had no idea. I started my research, found out that my kidneys were actually in danger as early as 17. It takes a long time for your kidneys to actually fail, but individuals live with kidney disease for a long time. So while I was in the military, all the way up until my late 50s, is when my kidneys failed, but they were declining the entire time. So at that point, after 10 years on dialysis and educating myself on disease, the symptoms, the cause, and preventive treatments, that was the most important. I stopped the pity parties. I was, as I mentioned, I was shocked and like everyone else. And with the knowledge, instead of the pity parties, I went into the pit stop. Just like your race car drivers that have issues and things like that, they don't give up. They pull into the pit stop, find out what the problems are, and if they can fix it, they get back and join the race. And that was my intentions, was to address these issues. I determined that kidney disease was preventable if you caught it early. Just like the things you mentioned, diabetes is a leading cause. Most of the individuals is not aware of that, so they've got poor maintenance. They don't take it as serious. High blood pressure. There's a lot of things that actually cause kidney disease. And of course, so by not being aware of it, like I was, when I went to the doctor and the doctor said it was okay, fine, and in zone, which of course is their favorite words, I realized that during that whole time, okay, fine, and in zone was stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Stage 5 is when we've got to see a specialist. So we educate people to realize that it's important to take an active role in their health care and start learning to read their labs, learn what their labs actually mean. Through that, I realized that knowledge was power, but I encourage everyone to share it, because knowledge is power, but sharing knowledge is very powerful, which of course is one of the things that you does, Jim. And of course, that's what we all got to get out and actually share that. So during the time of on dialysis, I talked to over 100 dialysis patients, technicians, doctors, the dietitians, and I came to the conclusion that the information have to get out. And I wrote a book that actually covered that, because it was about
Yeah, it's a great book.
95% of the people on dialysis were guilty of the same thing that I was, lack of knowledge. And we actually count on the doctors to actually tell us everything and didn't take that active role. So I remember as a child, when I lit a candle in a dark room, it changed everything. And the 501c was actually my candle.
Now, tell us what that is and how people can go take a look at it, because it's a very, very interesting website. And I think Nathaniel is going to post that up so everybody can see it as well. There we go. Health and awareness, kidney disease prevention. Let me make a point real quick, because if people are tuning in and they're seeing this, they're going, well, this doesn't relate to me. Let me tell you something. You'd be amazed how many people, there's about an 87% increase in kidney disease in the United States right now. It's truly amazing. And I want to tell a story of meeting Director Jeff Milligan, who is directing the VA North Texas, the second largest VA in the United States. And I said to him, gosh, I don't like to go down to the VA hospital because there's so many of these guys in wheelchairs that are so sad, that are combat veterans who've lost their limbs, lost their legs. And Jeff looked at me and he said, Jim, those are not combat. Those are diabetics. If you get diabetes and if it's not treated, you'll get diabetic ulcers. The diabetic ulcers turn into gangrene, and you will lose your leg and you will lose your life. It's a progressive disease that is horrible. And as a result of kidney disease, that's one of the things you get is the terrible, terrible problems involved in that. So we're trying to make a point. We're trying to make a point of prevention, and WallACE has got a lot of great information. His book, WallACE, tell us the name of that book and how people can get it.
All right, the name of the book is Why Not Me? The reason I came up with that title, because I was just like everyone else. When we got the news that our kidneys had failed, we had to go on dialysis, we all yelled, Lord, why me? After doing my education and learning a little more about it, that it was preventable, I realized that I, like all the other people on dialysis, were repeating the same things, the same lifestyle, the same eating pattern that the people before us that end on dialysis. And therefore, if they were educated on things, what they shouldn't do and take an active role, they wouldn't say, Lord, why me? At least they would realize and say, why not me, unless I change my ways.
Let's talk about, for instance, diet. What kind of diet did you have? What do you think was a major contributing factor from your diet to your kidney disease?
Well, with mine, first of all, in health and awareness, when we do our workshops, we throw out that word diet. We realize that diet is not a permanent thing, and most people that's on diets only use those, like I did when I was on active duty, to get down to the weight standards. The brides use it to get into that favorite dress during the summertime to fit those bikinis and things of that nature. Then we go back to the same thing. We use eating habits. Changing your eating habits is what we use, and realizing that diet, first three letters, D-I-E, you're killing yourself. So therefore, during my time, I realized, being a jock, I had a protein overload. I ate the highest meats and vegetables that I could find that was in protein. I ate the protein shakes, the protein bars, and things of that nature, along with high blood pressure that actually contribute to my kidneys actually failing. And doing that, I encourage people to let them know there's no such thing as a one size fit all. So if I mention that protein actually affected my kidneys, I encourage them not to back off of the protein, because what's good for them could be bad for me or others. So they've got to learn to read their labs and find out what's good for them, because each one of us are unique, Jim. And of course, there's a lot of things that we're allergic to. Maybe some of them are life-threatening allergies, but then others may not be. But we got to learn to read our labs to know what's actually affecting us. So at that point,
that is so important. And keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
So at that point, that's when I discovered that, as you mentioned, 87% increase in kidney disease, and people are dying from this because of the sharp increase since the last 27 years. And of course, the sad part is, as I mentioned, it's preventable, but there's very little information being put out about how to prevent it. And that's what health and awareness is all about, during the workshop, that we try to educate individuals and start them to thinking. Once they think and learn to ask questions, then of course that helps put them in the driver's seat of actually taking an active role in their health care.
Well, if somebody said to me, gee, I like my chicken fried steak the way it's done down in Austin, and I'd tell you that probably was one of the most dangerous things you could eat, because it's fried, it's overspiced, it's flour, and then it's all of those things in beef. Beef is a very, very high acid protein. And if you have any kind of predisposition to kidney problems, for instance, I have, beef will cause gout, beef will cause the purines to go nuts, beef will hurt you a great deal. And that's a terrible thing. And I'm sure the beef producers would throw the wolves to me. But it's true. You've got to find out what really affects you. And in most cases, an overload of this or that can kill you. I believe it was a big contributing factor to my mother's cancer, who she bought a hind quarter of beef every time we turned around, and we ate beef 8 days a week. I'm telling you, we had a protein overload. I've got a problem. My dad's had a problem before he went. So, and mother died at age 56 as a result. And she had gallbladder and kidney stones and kidney failure before she came down with cancer.
Yes.
It's a progressive. It goes from one disease to another. Once you mess up your kidneys, then there's a whole plethora of diseases that can affect you, correct?
That is correct. From the heart to the pressure, to your weight, to your liver, to your pancreas. I mean, you name it, because the kidneys are actually the one that filters the waste and the toxin and remove it from your body when you urinate. So if in fact that's not working properly, then of course that's where a lot of the toxins that we talked about, or we'll be talking about a little more when we talk about the how the toxins and the chemicals and things are affecting individuals.
Well, let's talk about another toxin that we enjoyed a whole lot when we were in the Navy because everybody encouraged it, and that's going and having a beer and going and having a drink. That was, happy hour was real happy, and especially when the ship pulled into port, we had a ball. Alcohol is another contributing factor. It affects different people differently, but it will mess up your liver, it will mess up your kidneys, and
Okay.
that ain't good.
That's exactly right. And that's why we love to use that word of changing your eating habits and your lifestyle. Because once you start looking at what's good for you, instead of even thinking about a diet, and you look at your lab works and you realize that these are the things that are affecting me. A lot of times when individuals go to a dietitian, they pull out this magic book that says, don't eat this because it's bad for kidneys, it's bad for diabetes, and things of that nature. What they overlook in a lot of cases, they're not comparing the other medical issues the person may have, any allergic reactions, what medications that they're taking. So therefore, it's actually causing an individual more problems than anything else. So the individual's got to take that active role to communicate and ensure that they have all the information there that they can actually work from the facts. And especially when they go to a doctor and they notice their labs are moving just a little bit, and the doctor says, okay, we don't have to give any medication for that now. To the patient, we teach them to say, okay, it's fine now, but what's causing it to move? That puts them in a control to whereas if they know what's causing it, they can go back and maybe make those changes that they don't continue in that same direction. And then when they come back, they have to get medication, which, as we all know, Jim, has got side effects to it.
Oh, yeah. And I had a minor heart attack in 2013, and WallACE, it's been a battle. It's been a battle. I now take a handful twice a day of pills, and I'm working. I'm getting my weight down. I watch my diet. I'm doing all these things. And that's what we want our veteran brothers and sisters to know. You can
Yes,
prevent this. You can turn it. You can't restore kidney function, but you can sure stop loss of kidney function. And so
that's
when
right.
we come back, we're going to talk about this, which is, I think, one of the most important chronic diseases we have that contributes to almost everything else. I've got the fantastic WallACE Green, the ace, I call him, and author and an organizer. And we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. So thank you for being with us, Veterans Impact Show. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Now, this is brought to you by Fairway, which is my company. I am a loan officer that specializes in working with seniors and the elderly. I do a lot of consulting. I'm also a certified senior advisor, and I see a lot of medical issues. That's why I'm so passionate about the PACT Act and about men like WallACE Green, who lead us and show us things like kidney disease. I want to tell you, my MLS number is 311-548-2289 is our corporate. And those little tidbits keep me out of trouble with compliance. I also want to say thank you to my wife, Diane, who's posting on Facebook, and to Nathaniel, who's Ascend Podcasting. You know, if you want to do it right, get a guy like Nathaniel who knows what he's doing. And we've got a great program now. So again, let's go back to some of the early stages of kidney disease. It's such a subtle disease. You may not feel it, you may not know it, but you were talking about your numbers, read your labs. How do you find that out? How do you get that done?
Well, most cases, if individuals have high blood pressure, diabetes, over the age of 60, had a history of kidney failure, kidney stones, and things in their family, when they get their lab work done, especially their annual, they'll always run the test for kidneys, which include the GFR, which stands for glomerirular filtration rate, the creatinine, and of course, those things actually identify the kidney's function. And of course, I would say perfect kidneys, if there's anything such as a perfect kidney, is right at 120. And then, of course, as the stages go down towards kidney failure, which of course is right around 15. So you've got 5 stages that the kidneys are actually declining over the years. And as you mentioned, Jim, it's so settled. The entire time that my kidneys was actually declining, I only experienced one side effect, and I contribute that to I was getting old. I had to move from playing the field with baseball, and I had to move into first base because my speed wasn't up to par. When I played football, instead of a receiver, I had to get on the line, and I just thought maybe I'm getting a little older. I can't get out there. After I found out that fatigue was one of the main problems of kidney failure, I realized that that was the side effects that I was unaware of, and also that was actually affecting me during that time. There's many other symptoms, and of course, we cover those. People are eating something for life, and then all of a sudden, the taste just doesn't taste right, or their color, skin tone is actually changing, where that toxin is being held inside the body, and they're not urinating it out, or when they urinate, they're seeing bubbles and things of that nature, and then the list just goes on of the different things that are actually evidence, but because it's so subtle, we don't actually pay any attention to it. And if we learn to read our numbers and compare them, whatever the number is during this visit compared to the last one, and if it's moving down with the GFR, that's a sign. If it's moving up with the creatinine, that's also a sign. Those two is the main ones that you're going to look at. And there's a other list in there as well that gives you an indication. As I mentioned, protein was one on mine that I never really looked at the protein. Sodium, potassium. There's a lot of things that we can look at and see if they're moving in the wrong direction. Because what we're looking for in all the cases, and not just kidney disease, but we're looking for that balance. And if we get that balance on all of our things that we're eating and our blood work, then of course we're doing a better job of getting in control and taking an active role in our healthcare.
One of the things that I found for me personally that's a trigger for gout, and I mentioned beef earlier, is sugar. I can't take sugar without having a big gout attack. And that's an indication that my kidneys are not working right if it won't expel that sugar out of my body. Sugar is also a killer with diabetes. Can you expand a little bit about that and how we can get sugar out of our diet?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's no such thing as a one size fit all. And one of the things that health and awareness does is we don't give a recommendation of what individuals should do, because we've found so often what's working for one doesn't work for the other. For example, I experienced gout, so did my brother. And of course, one of the things that they say, eat black cherries, that helps out, does wonder for him. Doesn't do anything but put weight on me and builds up my glucose count. So we got to watch the different things here again, our eating habits, not just sugar, because when we look at carbs turn into sugar. So there's a lot of things that the individual have to find out what's contributing to their particular case. And the only way they can find out how that is by looking at their labs. Here again, I go back to the dietitian, that if she's reading from this book, and of course the book is built on an average survey they did. How many people, but they're not broken down to age. They're not broken down to race. They're not broken down to the body type. They're not broken down to where the individuals are living. Let's face it, there's so many people that had allergy in the northern states moved to Florida, and the allergies is gone. So the air we breathe and things of that nature, all of these things have an effect on the disease and all that we're going through. But if we don't take that active role and realize when we go to the doctor that we want a doctor to address us and not what is good for everybody else, because we don't fall into that category.
Maybe I ought to move to Virginia because my allergies are driving me nuts here, especially after we got COVID earlier in the, last year. And I got to tell you, again, pardon me, I can't help it. All of these things are important to getting your quality of life. If you want to have a quality of life, if you want to be able to spend time with your children, spend time with your grandchildren, get a checkup, get your labs, take a look at them. And you need to know, where do you stand? What have we got going on here? What is my GFR? What are my creatine levels? You need to be preventative because we now are bombarded. And when WallACE and I come back, we're going to be talking about some of the toxins, some of the exposures. And it's not just military that's been exposed to toxins. They're in food. They're in everything we touch. It's gotten to be a major, major part of our society. And so we've got to take care of ourselves. So this is Jim Blythe with WallACE Green. We're here for you. We're going to continue Veterans Impact Show. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. If you're just now joining us, I've got a great friend of mine from the beautiful state of Virginia in the Hampton Roads, Norfolk area, Navy veteran. He served Vietnam as well. I got to tell you, WallACE Green, you are the epitome of Continue the Mission because you started this foundation about kidney awareness. And again, we've got that up. We're going to be talking about this and how important it is. Now, because of the PACT Act, and one of the presumptive conditions is, in fact, kidney disease, I have wanted to bring this to the forefront, and WallACE is probably one of the foremost experts. He's been given awards by the governor of the state of Virginia. This is important because it is a subtle disease. It's a disease, if you don't catch it, all of a sudden the side effects, heart disease, liver failure, what did we go on? Diabetes, all of these things, which can be prevented or can be slowed down. And I want you to get WallACE's book, Why Not Me? Where can you get that book, WallACE, for our new listeners?
Amazon have it on sale. And of course, any library that you go to, they're more than happy to order for you as well.
It's a great book. I've got it. Diane and I read it. And it's important. And it's important that you have to be. And WallACE, you were making this point a while ago. Doctors can only do so much. They work on averages. But each and every one of us, our bodies are different.
That's
what
right.
affects me may not affect WallACE, may not affect Diane. Mm-hmm. What I've found is that many things, though, that affect people may affect me more or may not affect me at all. That's so right. One of the things is you got to find out and you got to take care of yourself. Again, WallACE, you were talking about a high protein diet really contributed to your thing. That contributed to my mother's cancer, her kidney disease, her problems that she had. And I think it contributed to helping me. But one of the biggest things, which the PACT Act has come about from the VA, from Congress, talking about toxic substances. WallACE, it's not just the military. It's everywhere. Not. Can you talk a little bit about that as well? All of the toxins that we're faced with right now?
Sure, Jim. Of course, PACT stands for Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxin Act, which was passed in 2021. And it's a bill to actually help veterans who were exposed to the burn pit in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the veterans in during the Vietnam War through things such as Agent Orange and things of that nature. And of course, we encourage them to actually go and apply, because at this point, they do have a cutoff date where they'll actually go back retroactive if they file it by a certain date. And I apologize, I don't know what that date
I
is.
do.
I
I
think
do. That's
August 9th.
August the 9th of this
Beautiful.
month. That's August
All
the
right.
9th. And it will go back retroactive to August the 9th, 2022.
That's correct.
This is important. And yes, you could get benefits. So what if you got a 10 or 20 or 30 or 40% disability? Yes, you'd get a check. Isn't that fabulous? But you could start getting medical care that could save your life. Now, here's the other thing, WallACE. And unless I'm misunderstood all the programs I've had lately, there are survivor benefits for the spouse.
That's
There are
correct.
things that, especially with Agent Orange, about family. So this is important. Every veteran should know about it. But we also have a lot of civilians that watch our program and enjoy our program. There's so much out there right now. I mean, gosh, driving through some of the cities on this afternoon, you can see the haze. Ashley and I I fly, I'm a pilot. And there are many times when we come into cities, Dallas, Lubbock, Houston, and you see this terrible brown haze hanging over the city. That's affecting all of us, as well as toxins that may be in our food, in our water. You know, we think about Agent Orange, which was a herbicide that was used to eradicate plants in and around the bases, right?
That's right.
Okay. That stuff basically was used in cotton farming and other farming, and it gets into the soil, leaches into the soil. That herbicide, its basis is arsenic. If anybody knows what arsenic is, that's a terrible poison. That is a horrible poison. And so we are getting these kinds of toxins, pesticides, Agent Orange. Hey, it's actually a herbicide to get rid of plants. Roundup, we know Roundup is killing people left and right, and that's a bad situation. So let's take a look of what we're consuming and let's work towards, for instance, a more natural diet. And I'm not changing and saying Kroger and everybody should do something different. They're doing it right now. You can find natural products in almost every store now. And these are important. Why? Not because they're more expensive. Why? Because we don't want to end up with kidney disease. We don't want to end up with liver failure. And as far as, hey, let's get together with the buddies and smoke a cigar and kill a little bit of scotch. Think about how much of that scotch is sugar and what that's going to do to you and
Right.
killing you. You want to cut back on the alcohol big time.
Yeah. And of course, as you mentioned, Jim, the heavy metals, and I'm not talking about the rock group, heavy metals, heavy metals and toxins are well known to cause kidney disease, but of course, it's not routinely checked or tested. You know, today we live in a world where these toxins are global and we're exposed to them every day, toxins from various sources, which range from our medication, cleaning products, cosmetic, plastic food wraps, pesticide, as you mentioned, the food chains, metallic components in paints and gasolines and things of that nature. I mean, it just goes on and on. One of the things that I discovered that when people are actually warming up their foods in plastic, which of course is listed if you go and find out that there's a little triangle that says how safe the plastic is. And of course, if you don't realize that and you're warming up your food, what's happening is the chemicals being released to your food. And of course, we're actually putting that back in. My target market is the underserved and the low income and the seniors, because most of those individuals are not doing the reading and educating themselves of the things and what they're doing, because the money's so scarce. They're buying the cheapest thing possible. And the cheapest thing possible in most cases are the least healthiest. You know, they're not
Absolutely.
able to buy the organic food. And if they do buy some, they're not buying the majority. So therefore, they're like wasting their money, because you can't eat a little bit of organic and everything else the other way. It's kind of like going to the movie and getting a diet soda and then get popcorn and a hot dog to go along with it. You know, we've got to actually look at these things to where it makes sense. And that's why I target this group to whereas I can educate them and let them know that the point that you made, that it's very important that we are educated on what we're putting in our mouth, because if we can't afford the best, then at least we can cut back on it a little bit. We can start making adjustments in that area.
I think that is incredibly important. Can we talk about your workshops? What have you got coming up for workshops in prevention of kidney disease, learning to read your charts, and nutrition, and also organ donation? Kidney organs can be donated. So let's go through and talk about first the workshops that you're doing on prevention.
Okay, workshop pretty much consists of 4 parts. And of course, it's kidney disease prevention, where we teach individuals when they discover or if the doctor tells them what their numbers are. The main reason, the main thing that I tell them that they've got to ask them what caused it. Because I ran into so many people that has kidney disease, they're going on the computer and they're finding things that they're looking up this magic word of reversible. You mentioned earlier, kidney disease is not reversible. You can slow down the progression or you can stop it, but you can't reverse it. The only one that's actually reversible is the acute kidney disease. So therefore, individuals are going to this reverse. They find acute, they go to it, order these different medicines and things of this nature, wasting their money, because if they don't have acute kidney disease, just like there's 7, 8 different types and causes of kidney disease, that if you're treating the wrong one, you're not doing anything. You're actually enhancing it in some cases. Like most of our athletes, their kidney failure come from dehydration. The individuals with diabetes and high blood pressure and things along those fields are just their maintenance and things. So they've got to ask the doctor, what's the cause of my kidney disease? Second one is, what can I do? Not what the book says, but what can I do to actually control it? So we try to get them to the point where they start writing down the questions before they go, address the questions to the doctor, try to get a thorough and better understanding where they can communicate with the doctor. And it's not a one-way street where they're going in doing what I did, especially in my younger days. I went in and basically just listened to what the doctor said, walked out as happy as a lark, and not realizing that there were problems that was decreasing over the years, and then they catch up with me later on. That also, the workshop includes how to read your labs. We go through each one of the steps and let them know what they do, and look at the food labels that actually help contribute to the balance of getting their labs where they need to be, along with reading their test results. And then, of course, the final one is organ donation. That was a gift that I would never forget that I received. First one in 2013, which of course actually failed due to BK virus. I did meet the donor's family. And of course, this donor was actually the first female that served on the Washington Journal. And of course, the family boasts about her sitting in the first row of Agnew's resignation and other presidents and things of that nature. And they treated me just like a family. But that kidney failed. And I went back to dialysis. And of course, the second go round was 2015, which 8 years I spent on dialysis. Unfortunately, the bittersweet of the second kidney I got was from an 8-year-old that actually passed. And of course, the family made the decision, because she was underage, to actually make that donation. So as I mentioned before, the best gift that I could ever think, I can't find anything that can compare to receiving this gift. I never met that individual, but I did donate, continue to write them. I have a kidney bowl every June in the year, the month that I received this kidney, that's named after my donor. And of course, workshops are becoming a popular thing now, because if you leave Norfolk Airport, they've got this great big poster that LifeNet actually put on the wall. And people are beginning to see that because they recognize me. And They didn't realize I had a workshop, or they would pass it on to other individuals. So I stayed pretty abreast and busy with workshops. This month, of course, is where they're concentrating on multicultural organ donation. So most of the workshop that we're doing this month are related to LifeNet Health, and also Donate Life Virginia, which I'm an ambassador with, to actually go out and educate the community on the needs and the desires, and try to rid them of the myths and misunderstanding that most people do not donate their organs.
Let's go back because if people want to, now they've heard about your workshops, maybe I'm in Arizona, maybe I'm in Texas, but man, some of these I'd like to find out about and go back to. And we talked about trying to help you become a virtual presenter as well. But you can go to WallACE's website, and please pull that up, the health and awareness. So we've got that on there. So health and awareness, big picture of a kidney disease prevention. This is really important. And for my Vietnam veteran brothers and sisters, I got to tell you, not only did we get Agent Orange, but we got so many things in our childhood growing up, things that, and boy, WallACE said it without a doubt. The things that we did in the youth start coming home to roost when we get to be a lot older. So there they are. We're showing that on our website. I got to tell you, you want to take a look at it. And WallACE, man, I think maybe we need to come to Virginia and talk to you about how we can get this out virtually. Maybe we can show you how to do that, because this is important information. Why? It's preventable. It's something that you could keep from having. I got it. And let me tell you something. I look back and I go, if I'd have known Wallace Green 20 years ago, I wouldn't have the problem I have. So I'm in great shape. I'm doing well. I've got 100% function on one kidney and reduced on the other. So I'm great. But let me tell you, I know a lot of brothers and sisters who are not. And we want to try and help you. So again, go to Health and Awareness. Got a great big picture of a kidney on it. Find out about the workshops. Find out. And if you want to know more, contact Wallace Green. You can get his contact information on the website. And if you want to, Wallace, do you want to give out your phone number and let people know how they can reach you? Or your email?
Sure.
Your email would be good.
Yeah, that'll be fine. And matter of fact, we've got a new website along with the one that we've got for health and awareness, and it's actually https://savekidneys.org.
Wow.
And of course, that's one that they can go to, or they can actually email me at Gladden, GLADDIN06 at msn.com. And I do welcome any type of Zoom training or virtual training online if the individual would like to set it up from their end, and of course have the attendance of participants on that end, and I come on and do the presentation. So I'm not just restricted to face-to-face, but if an individual would like to do that, I'll be more than happy to coordinate that as well.
All right, let's give out that email. It's Gladden, GLADDIN 06 at msn.com. Is that correct? Did I get it right?
Correct. You sure did.
Hallelujah. I remembered because I messed it up the other day. And Diane put it on there as well. So you can get it on the chat and what we're doing. And you need to live a healthy life. So we're going to be right back to wrap this up. Bring this program back into the dock in just a minute with Wallace Green. We're talking about your health. We're talking about keeping yourself alive for your family. This is Jim Blythe and Wallace Green. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. I'm having a ball. And again, one of my great friends, I'm so fortunate that a number of years ago, we were broadcasting in Virginia, in Norfolk, and Jacksonville, thanks to Robin Valtudo. And I'm telling you, one of the best men I ever met is a veteran who has done more than his share for helping our veterans and with healthcare issues, the kidney. So the health and awareness, he's giving you out his email, gladden06 at msn.com. Contact him if you have questions. One of the things you've got to do, get an annual checkup. And when you do that, get the blood test run. And if you don't understand what the numbers are, the creatine numbers, the GFR numbers, the other numbers, the PSA, that's a huge one, because that one indicated to me that I might have prostate cancer. And sure enough, we caught it very, very early, and I'm doing immune therapy, and it works. And it all works together to make me healthy, so I can be around and give everybody a hard time. So, WallACE, again, thank you for being on board. It's really, really important. WallACE, one of the things that I think is so amazing, not only what you did in the Navy, but what you have been doing. What would you say to a young man or woman who's high school or college age, and they're going, gee, I don't know what to do. Gee, I don't know where to go. What would you say to them?
Well, I do speak at a lot of, believe it or not, elementary schools, along with high schools and colleges as well. And of course, one of the things that speak highly of, and that is joining the military, representing your country, uh, because I feel the background of respect, learning to work as a team, appreciating other people, and it helps remove a lot of selfishness out of individuals when they realize that in order to be successful, you got to work together. And it builds some type of harmony, even if they don't stick around like I did to retire. Just to go into the military is one of the main things that I encourage them to do before I get into the health spill and things of that nature. I also encourage them to, if they have members in their family that has any type of chronic kidney disease, they're on dialysis, had a transplant, to call me, give me feedback of any problems they have, because I also join the Dialysis Patient Citizens and the American Kidney Fund in going to Washington, D.C., where we speak on legislations and try to get bills passed on things that's actually helpful and is needed to make changes, which one that we're really proud of was the anti-rejection medicine that organ donors only had for 3 years, and then they were on their own. It was too costly for them to continue to pay for it. So therefore, most of them end up back on dialysis, getting another transplant, causing the city or the insurance company so much money. So that bill we were successful with this year. Last year we also worked the Medicaid bill, and we're due to go back again in September. So we encourage individuals. I love being the voice of the community. And of course, one of the best ways that I can do that is individuals to call me, let me know what problems they're having, whether it's with their medical bills, their treatments, and things of that nature.
WallACE, thank you for all you do. I want to say a special thank you also to the AUN network in Northern California, DBTV network with Roku and Amazon Fire that puts us out. And a special thank you to my great friend Robin Valtudo, who introduced me to WallACE a long time ago. What a great, great friendship we developed.
Yes.
And I think it's important. The military is not the only place where you can get hurt, you can get toxic. It's nationwide, it's worldwide, it's outside the military community. Yet the military community is leading the way with the PACT Act. If you don't understand what I'm talking about when I say the PACT Act and you're a veteran, then go to va.gov and it's going to pull up immediately. Take a look. You need to get signed up for the PACT Act. That's important. So I want to say a special thank you. You can sign up anytime, but there is a deadline for retroactive benefits, and that is August the 9th of this month, and just next week. So We want you to get signed up. We want you to get tested. We want you to be around to take care of the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren and teach the next generation about the values you learned in the military. I want to tell you, it's a great opportunity. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And many of the men and women that I met in the military have been absolutely inspirational to me. Wallace Green has been a major inspiration to me. My pilots in VA 163, my pilots in HC1 rescue, they were instrumental in motivating me to get back to college and to rise up to a higher level, to do more. That's part of what the military does. I think many of us have the misconception as, well, if we go in the military, we're going to get hurt, we're going to get killed, we're going to get all kind of problems. Not true. That's a relatively small, but it's about the same mirror what we see in the civilian community. So you could get run over by an 18-wheeler and have the same problems. We want you to know the military is a great start in life, and the military leads the way in many of the great programs in the United States. So, Wallace, I like to close out with a prayer, and I would sure like to pray. Lord God of the universe, we are so thankful for men like Wallace Green who continue the mission and lead in their community and lead to help people live healthy lives. And God, I want to say thank you for your hedge of protection, for your rampart around my active duty military, wherever they serve around the world, to keep us safe, and your hedge of protection and rampart around our first responders, all of which run into the fire instead of away from the fire. And God, help us veterans to lead the way. Help us to show the way to bring this nation back together. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Lord God, and we are so grateful for all you do for us. Amen. Wallace,
Amen.
I am so grateful to have you on today, and you are one of the most exceptional men I know. Thank you, and Diane and I got to come see you. We got to get back to Virginia. So again, thank you, Wallace. Thank you, Veterans Impact Show. Stay with us next week. Get a job. I'm going to show you how.